I was having a cup of tea and I was having a cup of coffee with him, and Mom and Barb went out to go see a movie or something like that, so we're in the house. And he goes, Zach, I don't drink anymore. I don't do drugs anymore. I don't even smoke. I never thought I'd give that up. And he goes, my schlong doesn't even work. And I go, Ozzy, he goes, then Oz just pauses for a second. He looks me right in the eyes. He goes, Zach, why am I alive?
What?
I first started playing music when I was 4 or 5 years old. My parents put me in piano lessons, but after doing that for a few years, I discovered rock and metal, and I really wanted to learn how to play guitar. I only really knew a couple of guitar players, the first being Randy Rhoads, who I discovered through, obviously, like the first couple of Ozzy albums. And I not only loved like his amazing riffs and solos, but I really loved how he kind of had a classical guitar influence on what he did. So I'm going to show you one of my favorite solos by him. This is Mr. Crowley.
Another classic riff that was a lot of fun for me to basically was Crazy Train. I think that riff is probably one of the most iconic guitarists of all time. Randy Rhoads is just such a phenomenal guitarist with such an insanely original and unique sound. I think that guitar riff obviously is going to stand the test of time.
What really changed my world was a good buddy of mine, Bernie Talty. He was my best friend for a long time in high school, and we used to jam a lot together. He was playing Crazy Train, and I was like, dude, I felt like giving up at the moment. I was just like, I can't play like you guys. You guys are just way too good. I'm not even in that same world. I can play like Smoke on the Water and stuff, but I told myself if I could learn how to play that riff in Crazy Train, that I had a standing chance.
I mean, Randy Rhoads is certainly one of my favorites. Eddie Van Halen is probably one of my favorites. I like the guys who are technical, but also like make the guitar sing. You know, the really, like they could write these really catchy, memorable riffs and solos and stuff. Slash too, you know, guys that can like really speak with the guitar and not just kind of play as fast as possible.
Yeah, Randy Rhoads did a really good job of taking basically classical guitar and sticking it into a metal band, but like in a way where it was like really, like that's like the intro of Diary of a Madman is like. Like stuff like that's pretty.
Yeah, but then he also wrote.
Yeah, Crazy Train's like one of the most memorable
riffs. One of the most iconic riffs ever written, you know?
Oh,
so like
up.
he all the technical stuff, but also like the really memorable, iconic riffs.
You know, one of my first shows ever was seeing Randy Rhoads and Ozzy Blizzard of Oz on Dan the Green. So, and those aren't easy songs to learn either, but learning the learning that on the Crazy Train. Learning those staples, but those were you just weren't busting into not at that age. Weren't playing the Randy leads. Maybe the part in know, maybe a little bit of the Flying High lead, but those are hard tunes.
I got this record, Diary of a Madman, so there were like a lot of amazing guitar playing songs on that. Randy was just incredible. It was one of those things where Diary of a Madman itself, it was a clean channel part, but it was like this classical thing. So that was like if you could learn that, you were the man in my neighborhood. And I remember learning that and just thinking it was the most haunting thing in the world. So that was, I'm probably going to like gank it right now. But this was it. This was Diary of a Madman. And then that was one that just really, once I learned that, it was off to the races. And there was another song on that record that I really loved called Believer. And it introduced me to these very minor chord phrasing, chord progressions that just really affected the way that I wrote songs from that point on. So Believer was really powerful. It was like... And when I heard Randy do that, I was like... It just taught me that you can do... That was just sad. So I would take these songs, I would learn them, and then I would kind of like, not plagiarize them, but I would just take that. I'm like, ooh, I like that chord, so I'm going to do that in my own songs. And it would kind of, it was an influence. It was a heavy influence.
Mr. Rude.
Man, that's
Same
a really,
question.
yeah, that's a really hard question because there's so many songs. But the first thing I thought of was I remember being like 12 and I had the vinyl of Blizzard of Oz and like slowing it down after school one day to learn the Crazy Train riff because I had to do it before my mom got home because she thought Ozzy was like gonna turn me into a criminal or something. So I had to hide the records, and I brought it out and just figured out that riff, like slowed it down again. Maybe it should be done right. It's just like another one of those riffs that it's, you know, has a better one been written yet? I don't know, but it's pretty cool.
Mr. Small.
I was going to say the same thing. I was going to say the exact same thing because that's such an important riff to guitar players. Crazy Train is one of the coolest things in the world.
From that same, it was a basket of CDs, black basket. My Uncle Imran shows up one day and he's like, hey man, check it out. I got you this, right? I'm like, what is this? He's like, yeah, here, take it. And yeah, little did I know, all the CDs were completely stolen. It was just, even the basket was probably stolen. But he got them for a good price, and they got put to good use. And there was tons of classic stuff like Foreigner, Led Zeppelin. 3 was a massive one for me too. And then there was a record called Blizzard of Oz. Before that point, I'd never heard of Randy Rhoads. And it was just this great riff that I'm going to try and play from memory right now, so it might take a couple times, but it was just like...
And songs that made me want to play guitar. I grew up in the 80s, so it was probably songs by like Ozzy, like Crazy Train.
What was the first riff that I learned? It was probably Enter Sandman, and I think that it was, because I didn't even know how to tune the guitar yet, and I was like, look, I can play Enter Sandman, and my mom was like, mm-hmm. And my buddy at school who was trying to help me, he's like, yeah, it sounds good, but I think you need to tune your guitar. So I did learn how to tune the guitar. And then I think one of the next riffs that I kind of learned was Crazy Train, as, you know, as you do. Crazy, but that's how it goes.
The first solo I ever learned that I really remember learning that like meant a lot to me was Crazy Train, Randy Rhoads. You know, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it sounds a lot harder than it is. Like when you're like 12 and you learn that, it's like, whoa, I can tap.
So once I started playing for just a little bit, I guess I caught the Randy Rhoads bug, and I don't know that I've ever mastered it, but Diary of a Madman, I think, was the, you know, that was the, it was a fun challenge to try and, you know, figure out how to do. So with my band, we've done like a kind of a mashup. You know, it's probably a disgusting mashup to most purists, but yeah, I got to play that, but never got to fine tune it and hone it down to its pure form. But the brilliance of Randy Rhoads is all over that song and many. But yeah, sure. Yeah, that would be the one.